Hello guys, Damodoc82 here. Just heads up, I'm a little under the weather right now, but I wanted to do a quick video guide for this platform I'm fixing to load up to the Steam Workshop. These are all the vehicles that I used in my solo run of Ashes of the Empire Season 2. So let's just first start with this guy and just go down the line here. This is the Metal Machine Mark II. It is a tank destroyer. Did very, very well in the opening battles of the campaign. Very satisfied with it. Did pretty good on the workshop too, as I recall. It's got a 200mm gun, and it's using 4-meter autoloaders. Has very good anti-tank weapon. Was very happy with it. Had a decent rate of fire too. If I can bring the UI back up so you guys can see, 23 RPM. Yeah, this thing would happily pop Taipans all day, and it was cheaper to boot. Really loved how this one turned out. So next, we got this guy. It's a cram tank destroyer. Now, the problem that I kept having with this is the AI just didn't know when to stop in time. So that's why it's got these little rams here on the front. I figure spread the love a bit. Yeah, this would like careen into the back of an enemy tank and then shoot a 2000mm armor-piercing EMP cram up its ass. A very, very nasty piece of work, this thing. I believe it is one of the first tanks I designed for this campaign. But yeah, very happy with it. And it's pretty fast. Very damage resistant as well. This here is essentially just a beefed up version of this. But this guy, it's got a slower rate of fire, but it's using a 500mm cannon with 6-meter shells. Which is basically the kind of trade-off you can expect from upgutting the size of the weapon. It did pretty well. It's probably more geared for facing like Onyx Watch and Steel Empire builds. Very happy with it. And this shell is just all kinds of nasty. I've used this in battle cruisers, and it just does a ton of damage. Ton of damage. But that was our heavy tank destroyer, the Panzerkampf. And this right here, this guy didn't see all that much action, sadly, but it was kind of a... Well, the first iteration was kind of a piece of crap, but I think that's because Flat got nerfed. And I made this to replace it, so it no longer had the 3 cannons on it. I instead went for a, I believe this is a 50mm. Yes, 50mm armor piercing, or is it high explosive? It might be APHE. Let's have a look. See. Yep, armor piercing, high explosive. I think I did pretty well after I changed it, but I think the at that point I was just using fighter planes. I think it'll still do fairly decent in the anti-air roll though, and it's also got these flares that launch out the top, because you never know. And this guy right here, this is the latest version of the Scudley. I believe this is the Scudley Mark III. Not too much different from the first ones. Still has a very large missile here. Let's have a look at it real quick. Rather beastly. This is mostly just meant to give a long-range knockout punch to enemy craft, which it did very well. Got a... Actually, the price isn't too horrible looking at it. But yeah, it was doing us a lot of good towards the end there. And this guy's also seen a lot of love on the Steam Workshop. It is the Metalizer Mark II Cram Artillery. For, what was it? High explosive cram cannons. And I had them set to, well, been a while since I looked at this, so let's see if I can figure out what settings I got on this guy. Yeah, we were using timed HE, I believe. That's what it looks like anyway. But yeah, this thing would core out the Onyx Watch tanks with the single salvo. It was pretty cool to see. A lot of fun with this guy. And over here, this is the Resistant Bite Mark II. Very, very simple tank. Just an early game light tank more than anything, this thing. Really cheap. Good luck trying to get through all of this. Because we have like, I think it was like a layer of heavy up here. Yeah. And then another layer of heavy here. It'd be a real pain to try to get to the gun on this. Gun performed fairly well. 15.7 using 200mm Hesh rounds. That's what this guy was using. Yeah, just meant to be a very good early game tank, which it served that purpose with distinction. And over here we have the Son of Odin Mark II. If you guys remember the Son of Odin from Mina Heitzmeister's multiplayer run of Ashes of the Empire, this thing was, or the original was, doing some pretty good work. This guy, it still has a lot of the same quirks to it. Still have the twin 150mm casemates on the sides. The main gun is a 300mm Hesh, I believe. I probably could have done the Tetris on this a bit better, but trying to do APS Tetris on tanks can be very, very hard. Yeah, this thing did lots of damage. I also had a 2-axis 60mm autocannon turret up here just to give it some light AA capability. Yeah, overall I was pretty pleased with it. So then we got this guy, which is basically my latest version of a Baneblade ripoff, the Baneblade Mark III, I think? Yeah, Mark III. It is using the same cannon as we have over here in this guy. And we also have a crank cannon here. AP frag. And we got a 60mm or a 50mm autocannon over here. We had some simple lasers for the sponsons. And we have a these autocannons here on this, well, I say autocannons, they're APS. The Tetris on this was kind of hard to do, but I made it work. It was a bit pricey, granted, but it worked pretty good as a late game tank. Oh wait, I was looking for something else on there. Yeah. Anyway, moving on here. The Sign of the Hammer Rammer Mark II melee tank. Now, unlike the first Hammer Rammer, this thing is designed to hover just above the ground. I figured it would probably get around a bit easier, and I put some wheels underneath it in case it happens to slam into the ground. It performed pretty well, too. Got some pretty decent hits in. Overall, very happy with it. And I think I did pretty good work with the deco stuff up here. This is just all covered with rams. And I used some decorations to hide all of it. The inlay isn't nearly as extravagant as the last one, but I still like it. And you guys probably remember this from my Season 1 of Ashes of the Empire, the Crazy Train Mark II. This thing is terrifying. Didn't really see a whole lot of action, but if you want to see how good it did, watch the first solo run of Ashes of the Empire, this thing just smacked the hell out of everything. Custom gen engine powered, of course. Just like this guy. Let me tell you, it was a hell of a lot of work to make this piston actually work. Had to do some crazy spin block on spin block action back here. You know, that is the crazy train. It also has rams all over the front of it that are hidden with decos, kind of like this guy. And here we have the Lazy Boy Mark IV. If you haven't guessed yet, it is a laser tank. It performed alright. I think it could have done a hell of a lot better, though. Reason why I say that is I probably should have used like a 2-axis turret instead of a 1. And let's see here, where is... just to see what kind of firepower we're getting with this laser here. But yeah, this thing would do some pretty good damage to metal beams. I think it's a charged laser if I remember right. A lot of times what I'll do with these charged lasers, if they perform well, is I'll just rip them out and put them into a ship to be used as an AA gun. Or an anti-air laser, I guess. I probably have way too much engine power for this, but I wanted a bit of redundancy in case one got taken out. But yeah, that is the Lazy Boy Mark IV. I think the hull turned out on it pretty cool. Took a lot of work trying to get the front of this shaped to where I liked it. And over here, we have the Maverick. I don't think I need to tell you guys what this is named after, because I made it shortly after the movie came out. Awesome movie, by the way. Very happy with it. Pretty quick. And I think it was just a little under par when it went up against a lot of the Garnets from the Steel Empire. But I think anything else would handle pretty well. I'm not quite sure where I have this graphical glitch here. It seems kind of weird. Ah, that's why. It's weird. I thought I had that shit turned off. Okay. Well, we'll just drop a save on it. Yeah, this thing performs really, really well. The wings will sweep forwards and backwards just like the original. And I even plan on using this in the Finest Hour run. By the way, the Finest Hour Let's Play, that's going to be restarted because there was a new episode of Finest Hour that just got uploaded to the workshop. And it was a bunch of British planes, which, before this, if I remember correctly, the British only had like one plane, and it was the Meteor, which I think was like one of the first jet fighters of that era. Anyway, yeah, that's the Maverick. Had a lot of fun with this guy. And over here, we have a relic from my my second playthrough of Quest for an Eater. This guy is the Screaming Eagle Mark II. This performed very, very well at the role that I needed it for. Still within the volume limit and everything. Now, what made this guy so special is it is designed to work in space. And worked very, very fast. At 171 meters a second, that's pretty quick. It launched the missiles outside the back, so then that way I could try to keep a very aerodynamic edge at the front of it, which, yeah, I guess that might not matter if I'm up in space, but still. I think it just looked cooler this way, what they were just launching out the back. We got... This isn't like the most efficient engine in the world, and I realize that, but it was mainly to run this laser here, which performed very, very well at shooting down enemy planes. And we have the laser down here in this turret. Yeah, this thing performed pretty well considering how old it is. The laser worked pretty well too, as I recall. Yeah, this thing will probably kill metal beams too. Probably don't need near as much AP, but whatever. I think when I first made this, the laser mechanics were just a little bit different. Anyway, over here you guys probably recognize this guy easily. No, that's not the bending blade. The Richthofen Mach 3. This one is mostly designed to be an air-to-ground plane. The one for finest hour, that is chiefly air-to-air. It's got these APN HE bombs down here at the bottom, and of course, up here, I have missiles mounted in the wings, like I do with a lot of these kind of designs. We got 60mm cannons here, and I believe this guy is, yes, it is powered by 4 custom jet engines, and this engine here in the middle, that's mostly just to give it a little more power for using the jet engine thrusters. But overall, I think it performed pretty well. I probably used it in some places that I shouldn't have because it does have very good anti-air defense. But a fun plane nevertheless. And this guy here, it's been a real fun design here too. This is the Death Harmonic Mark II. It still incorporates a lot of ideas from the Death Harmonic Mark I. It has some limited object avoidance in it, which means that it'll actively try to make sure that it doesn't get hit by missiles and or other large things coming at it, or projectile avoidance, I think it's called. Anyway, another plane that I was very happy with. Biplanes are just very, very fun to play with. Not really a whole lot going on here inside. Pardon me for a moment here. Sorry, I had to clear my throat there. Don't want to be coughing to your guys' ears. We had the twin 60mm autocannons up there, and we got some 60mm grenade launchers down here. They were using Hess shells, as I recall. That's something Heitzmeister had told me a while back, that those are very proficient for this kind of role here. It does have some decoy deployers here in the back. Yep, I'm very happy with it. Hopefully make a return in the next iteration of the Finest Hour playthrough. Of course, it's only gonna have like dumb fire rockets at that point. But anyway, moving on. This guy right here is the Way of Vikings Mark III. Awesome song from Amon Amarth. I highly suggest you guys listen to it sometime. It's pretty badass. So let's have a look at the insides of this thing. It's got just a little bitty fuel engines in here to give the thrusters here a little bit of power, and this main thruster here in the back. This cannon, it's using 88mm, I believe it's Hesh rounds, doing a fire rate of 367. But I'm pretty sure it takes a shot to this and it just blows the whole thing up. But it's got fairly good top speed. 125 meters a second. It'd probably do okay very early game. Yeah, that's the Way of Vikings. This here is the Berserker, which is basically that thing over there with a much larger APS. I believe this guy is using 333mm. Fire rate of 33.6. You're probably wondering why the hell the cooling limit is so high, because I wanted to have this thing pump out as many shots as it possibly could on a strafing run. That was the purpose behind that. But internally, other than a bigger caliber APS, it is basically the same thing as the Way of Vikings, just like I said, with a much bigger gun. I really liked how the hull ended up being on both of these. It makes them look great. And this guy, it's been up on the workshop for some time, but I wanted to include it in this fortress nonetheless. This is the Night Witch Mark II. And the idea behind this is it is intended to be a APS bomber, but it uses railgun chargers. The idea behind the railgun chargers is I can make this thing just spit out tons and tons of shells all at once. Problem is though with it, I originally started using 400mm shells in this, but the problem with it was then it took way too long to reload the 400mm shells before it came back for another run. So that's why I had these lowered to 200mm, and it just used like just a straight up frag warhead. There were some issues. Honestly, I think it might have performed better with the Hesh, now that I think about it, but anywho, it was very, very vulnerable to getting blown up, as you might imagine. And this is a purely good example of why I try to avoid using frag and APS, because it will just destroy everything around it. And you guys probably seen a few instances where this thing took a straight shot to the bottom and it just cored it all out. It's still very, very fast. This thing will do 200 meters a second on its own. The engines are set to like 50%, no, 40%, unless there are missiles out and about, then it'll beef it up all the way to 200 meters per second. Yeah, it's pretty crazy seeing how fast this thing would shoot out shells. Maybe I can demonstrate it here real quick. Well, let's see. Fire control computer. So let's just have a look, see what it looks like. Yeah. Another issue that I had with this thing was, aside from the issues with the reloads, it had to be extremely close to be able to use these cannons, which was another reason why I made it so damn fast. But there were lots of times where it just slammed right into the ground. Honestly, it would probably do a bit better in Quest for Neater, I think, where it doesn't have to worry near as much about terrain collision. But you guys saw the rate of fire on those. That was pretty awesome. Alright, and last we're coming to this guy over here. This is the Dream Destroyer Mark II. It goes very, very fast. And it has 4 of these AP and radar guided frag bombs. The entire back end of this thing is completely custom jet engine. There's like 4 of them. But it made it very, very fast. 186 meters a second. It will spend a little time out of the atmosphere. But I think that helped it with its evasion a bit. And I kept having all kinds of problems with it, but that's because trying to set up a local weapon controller to be able to anticipate all the different elevations and Ashes of the Empire is kind of hard to do. Which was a huge problem because there were a lot of times where these bombs weren't even freaking dropping at all. Most of the thing is actually a pleak, which oddly enough still worked very, very well, considering. It was pretty resistant to flak, which is one of the reasons why I chose to stick with it. It is inspired by I think it was a Mach 3 bomber in real life called the Valkyrie. And I really like how this turned out. Great looking plane. Alright, so that is the whole entire lineup here on this platform. I plan on putting it up on this video screen here, and you can have it play whatever you spawn in, so you can get your own little guided tour of this. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap it up here. So with that said, I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you like what you've seen here today, please let me know with a like, comment, or even a better subscription. You guys have a hell of a day and keep your hammer high. Later.